Hey, everybody. I know this is a little unconventional, but I felt like this was the best way to talk to everyone, even though a lot of you are in different places. I'm going to be in different places. We're not having staff meetings, so it's kind of tough. But I had a couple things I really wanted to share with you. And the first one is a really simple one. It's to say thank you. I know that it's been a pretty intense ministry season for a lot of you over the last 6, 12, maybe even 18 months. We've started a new campus. We've done a lot of new things. We brought on new staff people. Maybe you've been here on staff for a while, but your role is changing. The expectations of what you're supposed to do have been changing. We're all being stretched. Being stretched can be uncomfortable. It's hard sometimes when you're used to things happening a certain way and everything's different. And it just kind of, like I said, it adds to the uncomfortableness. Sometimes it's exciting, but sometimes it's also frustrating. And the thing about new things is they don't always work the way we expect they will. So whether it's new staff or a new role or even adding a new campus like we did with Metro, we always want it to just kind of be up and to the right, always making progress, always doing better, every week better than the last week, and every month better than the last month. Unfortunately, it doesn't always happen that way. We know that here at Mountain Ridge. We've tried several things. It took a while to get off the ground and get established, and we've also been a part of a lot of church plants, and we know that every church plant goes through some seasons and cycles. And the first year is one of the hardest because once the excitement wears off, sometimes things get a little tougher and volunteers step aside, and it can be difficult. Um, but that's what happens with new things. That's why it's hard and it's difficult sometimes to launch something brand new. So if you're feeling that, whether it's because of a campus or your role or new people in your department, whatever it is, I just want to remind you that new things take time, and it's okay if everything's not smooth right at the beginning. But I do thank you for working through this. I do thank you for being part of our staff team. I appreciate you, and I'm excited to see what God's doing in you and in our team and in our church. Because the other thing I know is that when new things stretch you, and when you get stretched, you start to develop and you depend on God a little bit more, and you come out at the other end being a little more polished, a little more useful to God and His kingdom, and a little more skilled than you were when you went in. So I'm glad for that. But I also recognize that sometimes along with those things comes disappointment and even discouragement. And those are two different things. Disappointment is, I tried something, it didn't work. I'm disappointed about that. I wish it would have been better, but I'm going to keep moving on. Discouragement is deeper than that. It's I'm not sure I want to keep doing this. Maybe I should quit. I don't know if what I'm doing is valuable, or if the people around me value me, or that if it makes any difference. And when you get into the discouragement area, it gets really difficult to move ahead. And I know some of you may be feeling that. I know I felt some touches of that. I think most of what I've experienced has been some disappointment, but I've probably had some moments of discouragement, and maybe you have too. And so that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and why I felt like it was important to get this out to you today. When you're disappointed, um, one of the things that really helps me is to think about Ephesians 6:12, because Ephesians 6:12 reminds us that the enemy is not another person. It's not a group of people. It's not a congregation. It's nothing like that. The enemy and what we struggle against, it says we don't struggle against flesh and blood, but we struggle against authorities and powers of the dark world. And that's exactly what we're fighting against. And that's why starting new things and trying to reach new people and bring people back to God and starting new churches is difficult, because there are dark powers fighting against us. If we're not doing anything, they don't fight that hard. When we're trying to move ahead and take new ground and complete the mission that God has given us, there's resistance and difficulty, and we're facing some of that. And so if you're disappointed, I just remind you that understand there are things working against you. Doesn't mean they're going to be successful, but temporarily they are at times able to trip us up and set us back. And if you're feeling that, that's understandable. Just sometimes knowing that perspective of what's happening around us and who God is and what He can do is far better and far more than the things we're struggling against. But it's not a person, and we don't have to blame anyone. We recognize that we're in a spiritual battle, that God's on our side, and we're going to be victorious. But if you're discouraged and you're feeling like maybe things are getting dark on you, I've been there and I know that. And there's a passage I've gone to a lot. I started going to it when I very first got into ministry, and I've looked at it many times since then. And it comes from 1 Corinthians 15:58, and I want to read that to you. It says, "Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, Stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourself fully to the work of the Lord. And this part just is what really gets my attention, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. It's hard to get completely discouraged when you know that no matter what happens, if you give yourself fully to God and what He's doing, it's not going to be in vain. It's going to matter. And what you do is important. And even when you don't feel like doing it, and even if you feel like you're not seeing the progress you expected, God says it's not in vain. And He's going to use it to accomplish His purposes. So if you're struggling with discouragement, I just want to tell you, hang in there. This is a season. This is not your life. This is not what defines you or what God's doing in you or how He's going to work with you. So I just wanted to share with you as your pastor that I love you, that your work matters a lot, and that we are going to continue to move ahead. We still see people coming back to God because God's faithful and God does great things, and we get to be a part of it. We're still going to be a regional church that starts locations and reaches people all across Phoenix, including the metro area where we already have a great work started. We are moving ahead, and it's not because we're smarter, stronger, or better. It's because God's at work. He's given us a vision and a mission, and we are willing to carry it out. So stay fully committed to Him and to what He's asked you to do. And I have a feeling you're going to look back in some time. I don't know if it's a few months or even maybe a few years. And you're going to say to yourself, man, I am so glad I hung in there. I am so glad I stuck it out because I got to see God do some incredible things. Like I said, if there's anything I can do for you, please let me know. Have a great rest of your week and have a great July. I'll see you when I see you.